So the arrival of the Arctic blast is imminent. Will we see snow, sleet, or ice in the Willamette Valley? Well, that depends on your location, so let's find out in this video. So the National Weather Service watches and warning shows a winter storm watch for the entirety of the lowland valleys in western Oregon and southwest Washington, plus the Coast Range and the Oregon coast and southwest Washington coast from Friday at 4 in the afternoon to Sunday at 4 in the morning. A winter storm warning is currently in effect for the Cascades and a winter weather advisory for the southwestern Washington Cascades for that same time period. Now, what do I constitute an Arctic blast? My definition of an Arctic blast is when one of the following happens. We will likely qualify based off of the 26 degree or lower high temperature, but we may also qualify based off of the 4 days in a row failing to get above freezing. Every meteorologist in the area does have a different definition. This is just my personal definition. This is not going to constitute as a major blast despite the super cold high temperatures, and that's just because the Arctic air isn't going to be that deep. The 850 millibar temperature is the temperature taken at 5,000 feet, and the reason why I'm measuring this over Salem is because that's where the weather balloons are launched, where these temperatures are measured. I don't expect a 50 millibar temperatures over Salem to get anywhere below about a -3 or -4 during this event, and it'll actually go into the positives, meaning the snow that is falling from the cloud will melt at that latitude and then refreeze on contact with the ground when it hits the ground. So this is just a minor Arctic blast because it is shallow but potent. Now onto the setup for this event and why this is going to be happening. So a low pressure system is going to be making landfall somewhere along the central Oregon coast between Reedsport and Lincoln City. My best estimate for where this is going to be making landfall is probably going to be right around Waldport. So that brings colder temperatures from east of the Cascades funneling through the Columbia River Gorge and then down south through the Willamette Valley. Now, Portland will experience the cold temperatures first, and then it will progressively go further south. Now, again, this cold air will be shallow, so some areas of the Cascade foothills may not experience this cold temperatures because of a meteorological phenomenon we call warm air advection, or a warm tongue, where warmer air from this low pressure system wraps around from the south and then comes up and banks against the Cascades, coming up as what looks to be a tongue on temperature maps. So that's why we call it a warm tongue. I do not expect this to overpower the gorge wind, which is why the lowland areas will be entrenched in Arctic air over the weekend. So some model issues that happen with the Columbia River Gorge. So models are generally run in grids with kilometer-based resolution. A lot of the higher resolution models are based in 3 kilometer resolution, which means that each square constitutes a 3 by 3 kilometer area. Now, the Columbia River Gorge is normally about 1 kilometer wide, and then you have steep slopes on either side, which is why it's a perfect funnel for cold air from east of the Cascades to go west. Now, even if you have a 3 kilometer model, that fails to get a lot of the significant winds through the lower and middle atmospheric columns, so anywhere up to that 850 millibar level, as that pushes out of the Columbia River Gorge. Now, the gorge wind also commonly backs up against both the Chehalem Mountains and the Coast Range, and both of those mountain ranges, more specifically the Coast Range, will deflect that gorge wind down south to the Willamette Valley, which it won't be as strong as it is in the Portland metro area, but you will still get that cold wind. So because of that does mean models have a hard time resolving whether Portland will be in complete snow, or if how big of a warm layer there's going to be to melt that snow into either freezing rain or if it's going to be sleet. Now, my best estimate right now is saying that most of the Portland area will be in snow with a brief period of sleet, though the odds are higher for snow the further north you go. So on to my ice accumulation forecast first. And I do think for areas south of Salem, this is going to be a pretty big ice storm, anywhere from 0.3 of an inch to an inch of ice accumulation. And if you notice, I do have a portion of the Coast Range in here that may extend a little bit further to the north or further to the south, but I do think that this area of the Coast Range between Corvallis and Eugene is also under a threat for ice. So for anyone traveling across the Coast Range, this could be an issue. From the Lynn-Marion County line all the way up to Woodburn, I am anticipating lighter totals of ice, anywhere from about 1/10 of an inch to 0.3 of an inch. However, I do think more sleet mixes in here, which lowers your freezing rain total instead. Now for the snow accumulations, for the Portland metro area, I think that there is the potential for 3 to 7 inches for most of the lowlands. I think up to 9 inches is possible in the mountains, and this is a rare case where the color for a portion of the Cascades is actually the same color as the lowlands, and that's because of the low pressure center tracking right about where my fake laser pointer is. The upper edge of the precipitation should be not too far north of Longview. So the Cascades in southwest Washington isn't going to suck out that much moisture than the Willamette Valley will. So it's not the case with the Oregon Cascades with 12 to 24 inches above 3,000 feet and 6 to 12 inches anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 feet. That does also include the Coast Range. For the central Willamette Valley from Salem to the southern Portland metro area, that area that would receive a little bit of freezing rain too, I'm anticipating a trace of 3 inches. Most of that I do anticipate will be falling as sleet. And then also, as a side note, for some areas of the Portland metro area, this does include sleet accumulation. If most of this falls as sleet for some areas, please reduce the totals accordingly by about 2/3. That would mean if the lower end of the precipitation falls, it'd only be about 1 inch of sleet. If the upper end of precipitation falls, it'd be about 2.5 inches of sleet. So onto our forecast notes. There is an uncertain track and deepness of the warm layer, especially with the Portland metro area. Now, a lot of the higher resolution models are showing that the Portland area from the Columbia River south is only going to receive sleet. A lot of the global models are saying that that entire area is still in snowfall. Based on my personal experience, it is extremely unlikely that it would be freezing rain. It's most likely going to be sleet or snowfall. I am going to deviate from the models, the higher resolution models, as a result of the processes explained earlier and forecast snow for now. I do reserve the right to change my mind in tomorrow's forecast as I learn more details about this entire setup. This is one of my least confident forecasts I have made as a result. East wind gusts anywhere from 35 to 60 miles per hour across the metro area. Wind chills are going to be near 0 degrees, especially the eastern metro areas. I think if you're in the central or southern Willamette Valley, wind gusts are not going to be a concern. That portion is just going to be a Portland metro problem. I am also seeing a possible transition event either on Tuesday or Wednesday, but it is too early to know the details or how much precipitation could fall. So the timeline for Corvallis. On Friday, I do anticipate the Arctic air arrives sometime around sunset, bringing a mix of just regular rain and freezing rain at 7 o'clock, maybe mixed with some brief periods of sleet or snow during the overnight hours from Friday into Saturday. I don't anticipate the high temperature is going to get to that much above 30 degrees. For other areas in the central and southern Willamette Valley, expect slightly colder high temperatures in Salem, probably between 26 and 28 degrees there. And for Eugene, I do anticipate you do go briefly above freezing, but probably not that much. And then now for the Portland area, I do anticipate snow flurries through Friday evening, though not significant accumulation until Saturday during the daytime hours. And as you'll see on my 7-day forecast for both Portland and Corvallis, the 3 p.m. temperatures are going to be lower than my 7-day forecast high temperature. That's because the high temperature is occurring very early in the day before this timeline. So snow flurries until Saturday around 7 a.m. Then snow will ramp up, probably for some areas, a brief period of sleet, longer the further south you are, but the high temperature probably only around 22 degrees for Saturday. Now on to the 7-day forecast and back to Corvallis. I do anticipate mainly rain showers tomorrow, a high around 42 degrees. On Saturday, ice, storm likely, high temperature around 30 degrees, drying out Sunday through Tuesday with highs slowly creeping above freezing, so a slow thaw as low temperatures are in the low 20s until Monday into Tuesday, as there is a slight bit of southerly push, but stronger as we go into Wednesday and Thursday as Corvallis breaks out of the event without any sort of significant wintry precipitation. For the Portland metro area, rain to begin the day on Friday, but after the Arctic air arrives, that will switch over to snow flurries, though a lot of areas will not see any accumulation until Saturday. I am anticipating a high temperature on Friday to be 38 degrees, and that high temperature will occur when most of us wake up. On Sunday through Tuesday, I am, like Corvallis, anticipating it to dry out, though thawing even more slowly than Corvallis, with highs not even getting above freezing until Tuesday. And I am now forecasting 2 lows in the teens. And then on Wednesday, that is the transition event that I am watching. It's most likely going to be Tuesday overnight into Wednesday. Right now, any sort of frozen precipitation is on the table, though I will learn more details the closer we get to that event, if that even happens. High temperatures will, however, go above 40 degrees on Wednesday and Thursday, finally breaking us out of this Arctic blast. So that is it for this video. I will come out with another video tomorrow with a hopefully higher confidence forecast. So I will talk to you all then, and otherwise, stay safe out there and take care.